Hello everybody and welcome to a new episode of Sports from A to B alongside Tyler Trudeau once again. I'm Damon Turbot. It's Friday, April 24th, and as usual, we will review the week that was for Spy Ponders Athletics and of course give you a look into next week's matchups.
And also, we will take it to the big leagues as Damon and I discuss some of the hottest topics in Boston professional sports. So stay tuned and be sure to follow us on Twitter at SportsA2B as we keep you updated on all things athletic.
Now Tyler, we've done a few shows at this point, obviously, but can you believe it's already May?
I am so amazed. It is so crazy that it's already May, and I am sure the Spy Ponders are happy with the fact that it is May. So let's go over to Rachel Yen for an APN Sports Blast.
Welcome to the APN Sports Blast, where we focus on sports in and around Arlington. This past Friday, 3 Spy Ponder teams stood victorious. The boys volleyball team took a win over Winchester, and both girls lacrosse and softball beat Belmont High School 13-12 and 11-3 respectively. On Wednesday, the softball team continued their stellar season start with a 4-0 win over Reading. And new in Spy Ponder Sports, Ultimate Frisbee. This weekend, Arlington squad will be participating in Natick High School's inaugural Ultimate Frisbee tournament. Running all day Saturday and with 12 teams competing, we wish AHS Ultimate the best of luck. Attention all 8th grade athletes and parents. On May 7th at 6:30 p.m. in the school auditorium, there will be a meeting for all 8th graders interested in playing high school sports. The meeting will review all high school offerings, policies, the website, and registration process. Captains and coaches will be in attendance. This past Patriots Day weekend, 38 Arlington residents completed the Boston Marathon. Hats off to Daniel McHugh, who at 38 years old finished fastest among Arlingtonians with a 2-hour and 41-minute time. Caitlin O'Leary finished in 3 hours and 10 minutes, leading all Arlington women. Congratulations to all. The Red Sox blew a 4-run lead to the Tampa Bay Devil Rays Wednesday night, despite home runs from both David Ortiz and Dustin Pedroia. The Sox hope to bounce back against the Rays Thursday night at 7:10 p.m. That's all we have for today. Join us next time for the APN Sports Blast. I'm Rachel Yen.
Thank you, Rachel. We are now in the heart of spring season. Spy Ponders Athletics has a very busy week coming up.
The Spy Ponders baseball and softball teams are looking forward to a 3-game homestand. Monday, both teams will take on Lexington Minutemen, followed by back-to-back games on Wednesday and Thursday as the Spy Ponders take on Wakefield Memorial High School and Wilmington.
The boys and girls lacrosse teams are in action this week. The girls will travel to Medford on Monday to take on the Mustangs, and Wednesday the girls will travel to Wakefield, while the boys also play Wednesday at home against boys lacrosse, of course, from Wakefield too. And then Thursday the boys take on the Hopkinton Hillers, try saying that twice, in Arlington.
The boys volleyball team looks to spike the competition with 3 upcoming matchups. On Sunday, they go to Cambridge Ridge in Latin School. Tuesday, they take on O'Brien High School in the Red Gym. And finally, on Wednesday, they square off against Lincoln Sudbury Warriors at home.
And don't forget about that Spy Ponders tennis team, Tyler. They have a very busy week themselves. The girls play 4 days in a row starting Monday with a matchup against Woburn High School. Tuesday, the Lady Spy Ponders host Newton South Lions. Wednesday, the girls travel to Lexington. And on Thursday, they will finally end their trip at Melrose High School. The boys play 3 straight themselves, starting on Monday at Woburn. Tuesday, they have a rematch against Woburn, this time at home. And finally, on Wednesday, the boys host Lexington High School.
The track teams are in action as well this Tuesday. The boys will be at home taking on Reading Memorial High School,
while the girls will travel to Reading Memorial High School to race against the Rockets.
It's been quite a busy season for these Spy Ponders, hasn't it been, Damon?
Yeah, and it's really unfortunate that we had this incredibly long winter, because what it does is it makes these teams have to play so many matches or so many games, depending on the sport, in such a little amount of time. The snow just held everybody inside for so long, and spring sports, there aren't many that can be played inside. So it's very difficult to get out there, and a lot of these teams are really going to have to stress themselves over these last couple weeks.
I mean, you look at the baseball and softball teams, 3 games this weekend. That's a big task, especially with how your arm's going to be wearing down around this time of the season. Getting through those 3 games is definitely going to be tough.
And think about lacrosse, too, because you're specifically boys lacrosse, where you're getting beaten with sticks 3 days in a row. I'm sure, you'll get hit with a ball on a pass, and, I mean, you're not going to be feeling too good the next day, and that goes for the girls, too. So definitely going to see some physical issues over, playing multiple games in multiple days. So
speaking of not feeling so good, let's move on to Boston sports.
And speaking of not feeling so well, 16 games into the regular season, the Red Sox are now tied at the top of the AL East. The starting rotation has lived up to expectations. When they are pitching well, the Red Sox are a tough team to beat, no doubt. But when they don't pitch well, the Red Sox, they seem to lose. Well, Tyler, now that the season has started, should the Red Sox be concerned with their starting 5?
Honestly, I really don't think it is that big of a concern. Like you said, it's lived up to expectations, but the expectations already were a little shaky. The Red Sox are 23rd right now in pitching with a 4.31 earned run average. So it's not bad, but it definitely isn't good, especially when the hitters have been struggling as of lately. But I think we have to look at some positives here. Justin Masterson is 2-0. Clay Buchholz has only really had one mental breakdown this season, which has been
Well, he hasn't been on the mound too much, so let's say only one. I'd say one thus far.
But think of his performance last night. 10 strikeouts in 6 innings. That's an amazing performance. You think of Joe Kelly 2 days ago. The first 5 innings, he pitched great, but then that 6th inning when he came out, he gave up 5 earned runs. That isn't good. The thing with the Red Sox pitching this year is it's going to be very inconsistent. I feel like some days we are going to get extremely good quality starts that we've seen 2 pitchers in a row deliver, minus the 6th inning for Joe Kelly.
Right.
But it's either going to be a really good pitching performance or it's just going to be the bats are going to hope to keep up with the bats of the other team.
And as you mentioned, the bats haven't been doing so well lately. And of course, it's been called a chorus line of number 3 starters, but I want to go back to Buchholz and just kind of assessing how he's done so far. It's great that he had a fantastic performance against Tampa Bay, but when we're talking about big games, we're talking about Yankees, huge games for momentum, team morale that need to be won. He has 1 start against the Yankees so far. I believe he gave up 11 runs. It's the biggest game of the year to date, and he just completely flopped in the second start so he's had 2 good starts, and then he's had that 1 awful start. But the awful start to me says a lot more than the 2 successful starts.
And it also is something to say is that the Red Sox starting pitchers have only combined for 7 quality starts, which is going at least 6 innings into a game. They need to increase that number if they're going to want to be a contender because their bullpen isn't great. It has been doing well this season, but it isn't great. It isn't the cornerstone of this team. The starters need to last longer in these games if they want to be successful.
Yeah, and that's the issue with having this chorus line of number 3 starters. I hate to use it again, but I'm going to. Those kind of starters aren't necessarily the ones that you would expect to go very deep into the game. So you have a lot of guys who are probably used to going 5-6 innings whenever they take a start. They're not used to throwing an extra amount of pitches, but now the bullpen's going to see a little bit more because of that. And actually, also another thing I want to say is, out of all 5 starters so far, I don't think any of them have pitched better than Joe Kelly, who happens to be the number 5 starter. And if that's the way things are going to work out this season, that may not be enough to help out the bats, especially if they're going to be struggling at times.
From the mound to the plate, the Boston Red Sox lineup has been crushing the ball at the beginning of the season. The Red Sox are currently tied for 6th in the MLB with 77 runs scored this season. However, the last 2 series, the Boston Red Sox have seemed to quiet down a bit. Damon, even with this powerful lineup, do you think the Red Sox have some concerns that they need to address?
Well, yeah. I mean, look at the guys who are just hitting poorly. There aren't many guys who are hitting very well. In fact, the guy who's really hitting the best right now doesn't even play every day. And Brock Holt, he's hitting over 400, and he's not, like I said, he's not getting out there every day. You have guys like Ortiz, you have guys like Mookie Betts who are underperforming. You have a lot of runs because I think it was because more so of a hot start. And now they're starting to taper off a little bit and starting to slump a little. So it's kind of interesting. I don't know how to assess the bats. I would say that I've been impressed with Hanley Ramirez so far in his power. I think that really helps the team out. I saw Sandoval last night. He had a pretty good game on both sides. But you're going to have more top-to-bottom production because right now there seem to be a lot of holes in the lineup.
I agree with you. Napoli, Ortiz, Betts, Craig are all batting under 200, which is terrifying, but you do have to remember that this is still early in the season.
Right.
I feel like David Ortiz is going to come around. He's had slow starts before and been able to get consistently around the same numbers that he usually does every year. But I honestly think that it's time for Victorino and Napoli to get off the field because Brock Holt, like you said, is the best hitter on this team right now. Obviously, that hasn't changed, but think of last year. He was the one bright star that the Red Sox really were able to take away from last year. Oh, at least we had Brock Holt. Brock Holt had a great season. And he's not playing. I think that's kind of a little disrespectful, to be perfectly honest, because Victorino is basically hobbling along on one leg right now in a bad back. Mike Napoli can't really seem to hit anything right now. You can put Brock Holt literally anywhere. The only 2 positions I haven't seen him play are pitcher and catcher. He can do anything, and I'm just shocked that they still have Napoli and Victorino going out on the field.
I understand having Brock Holt come in for Victorino because, as I said before, Brock Holt has been the best hitter in the Red Sox lineup so far this year. Did well last year. Why is he not playing? But in terms of Napoli, maybe it's just because I'm still reminiscing on 2013 a little bit, but I don't think it's quite time to get rid of him yet. Obviously, he had an absolutely horrendous start to the season this year, 0 for 16, 0 for 17, something of the like. He hasn't really quite turned it around. I guess he's at least gotten a hit, which is nice, so he doesn't have that donut in that column. But I'm not ready to get rid of him. I think give him a little bit longer, maybe another month or so to see what happens. Maybe not play him every day, obviously, because you can't get 0 for 4 every day. But I don't think it's quite time to get rid of Napoli.
What do you think about Castillo coming back from injury, going to AAA for a little bit, and Jackie Bradley Jr. has also been hitting the ball very well in Pawtucket? Do you think we may see one of those two come up through the ranks?
And you touched upon it. We're 16 games into the season, 10% of the year. There's still 150 more games to be played. 152 more games, actually.
No.
146 technically, but let's not. 146, but hey, who's counting? But I mean, give these guys a little bit of time to see what will happen. Maybe at the 30-game mark, as long as the Red Sox are able to stay near the top of the AL East, I don't think they need to start making any moves until maybe the 30-game mark. But if the Red Sox continue to slump, I think you start to bring guys up like Jackie Bradley Jr. But Jackie Bradley Jr. also was playing really well when he came up to the Red Sox last year. What happened to Jackie Bradley Jr.? Well, he kind of fell off the face of the earth. Rusney Castillo, he came into the season with an injury. I'm not ready to quite bring him up. Give him a little bit of time to see how he develops and go from there.
All right.
And speaking of rough stretches, the Boston Celtics are down 3-0 after a tough loss Thursday night at the TD Garden. With just 49 seconds remaining, the Celtics were only down 5, but with good offensive rebounding and clutch shooting from Kevin Love, the Cavs were able to hold on to the win 103-95. Celtics get ready for Game 4 this Sunday, but Tyler, I think we can kind of say this, but is it over? I think we should just address it.
The series is pretty much over. Let me first say, Brad Stevens has done an amazing job with what he's been given. People coming in and out almost every week, it seemed like at one point, just a new starting lineup. And Brad Stevens was able to bring this team of misfits and not only make the playoffs, but get the 7th seed. The Celtics weren't even supposed to make the playoffs. And
no, they were a top 6 pick probably.
They weren't even the last team to make it into the playoffs. But honestly, it just comes down to the Cavs are a more talented basketball team than the Celtics, and it's evident when it comes to these games. They've been very close, well, the exception of one that kind of got away from them, but most of the games have been within an arm's reach at the end of the game, and it comes down to the inexperience of the young players and people not being able to make that big play. They're 2 offensive rebounds away from possibly being down 2-1.
And with another home game to go.
I do think the Celtics will take Game 4 because they are a scrappy bunch.
Give them a throwaway, right?
Yeah, let's give them one game. But Game 5, this series over. Once it's back in Cleveland, this thing is done.
You said it. The Cavs have a lot more talent and they have a lot more experience. With that being said, all the credit in the world once again goes to Brad Stevens for being a fantastic coach and taking a fantastic approach to this series, because what he has tried to do is try to outmuscle Cleveland, try to be tougher than them, because if they were going to have an advantage, it would be that they were tougher than this Cleveland team. And they've done that, and that's why they've been able to hang in these games, given how much of a discrepancy there is between talent and experience here. So really kudos to Brad Stevens. They've made the series look close for a little while. I'm going to say, LeBron came to Cleveland this year with one sight in mind, and that was bringing a title back to Cleveland. I think they're going to squash Boston in Game 4. I don't think there's much, but I think LeBron really wants to send a point. He's been playing well this series. He's been kind of washed away by a few other players like Steph Curry this year, and I think he's kind of getting sick of it, and I think the playoffs is where he really wants to show what makes him the best player in the league.
I definitely agree with you. The Celtics season is not going to last for much longer, and the Boston Bruins season is already over, and they did not waste any time starting off the offseason. The Bruins responded to missing their first postseason in 6 years by firing their general manager. Team president Cam Neely has been on an exhaustive search, he says, for looking for a new GM, and the next person who will hire as the GM also decides the fate of Claude Julien. Damon, what do you think the fate of the Bruins coach will be?
I have a feeling that they're going to get rid of Claude Julien. It just seems like there's been too much buzz about it to not have something happen. I felt like if I felt like it would have died away by now if there wasn't actually some truth behind it. I don't think that it should happen though. Chiarelli getting fired even was confusing to me. He brought the team to two Stanley Cups, brought the team its first Stanley Cup victory in 40 years, and that was just 3-4 years ago. So I don't understand why they got rid of Chiarelli. He made the playoffs 7 out of 9 seasons, and now he's gone. Claude Julien is a guy who everybody loved up until 3 years ago, and now they haven't had as much success over the last couple of years. Now people are calling for people's heads. There are a lot of injuries on this Bruins team. Let's not forget. And I've been saying this, I've said this multiple times, if the Bruins didn't have as many injuries as they did to key players like Krejci, Chara, and the like, then they wouldn't have to worry about missing the playoffs. I felt if they could have been a cohesive unit throughout this whole season, I still think they could have wrapped up a 5th or a 6th seed in the Eastern Conference, made the playoffs, and been a threat. So people wouldn't have been calling for Julien's head or Chiarelli's if that was the case. So I don't think that they should get rid of Julien.
Obviously, this team was plagued by injuries this season. We've talked about this before, but what I would like to see is Cam Neely taking over the general manager's position. He's the president of the team, and he's clearly a brilliant hockey mind. I feel like that Cam Neely would do a great job in this position. As for Claude Julien, he's been a great coach. He's been great, but
oh, don't say it.
Don't say it. With the way the team is going, they are clearly looking to rebuild. I don't think Claude Julien is going to be a part of that rebuild, unfortunately. I see maybe at most, maybe they get the general manager and they're not going to say anything about it and just let Claude Julien go one more season, kind of like a, okay, well, this is your last shot. Like, see what you can do. But just by the way that this team is playing, Soderberg isn't coming back. They don't have too much money to get a big star or anything. The team is going to look different by just young, unexperienced players next year. I just don't think Claude's going to be there for much longer.
The salary cap is definitely an issue, and it's really unfortunate for for Julien as a coach, because there's maybe not necessarily too much he can do about that. He can have the players on his team, but he doesn't get to make the monetary decisions. So and because of that, and because of the bind that they're in, the Bruins are almost forced to start, reshaping their franchise. And it's just unfortunate that Julien's really catching that at a really bad time. Now let's get presidential. Yesterday, the Patriots visited President Obama at the White House. At the event, the president made some jokes at the Patriots, saying he was afraid 11 out of 12 of his jokes would fall flat. The biggest focus of the event was the lack of Tom Brady, the golden boy. The Patriots say Brady was unavailable for the event. Tyler, what's bigger news, Tom Brady a no-show or the new Gerard Mayo contract?
I honestly hate how everyone cares that Tom Brady wasn't there. He's been there 3 other times. I'm sure that the only thing that's changed is the person that's living in there, to be perfectly honest. The big deal is that no one's really talking about this Gerard Mayo contract reduction. He is taking a pay cut for playing less. And I just think that this is so amazing because the Patriots have built a franchise where their offensive leader, Tom Brady, has taken multiple pay cuts in his career, and now the defensive leader, Gerard Mayo, is taking pay cuts so the team can be better, the team can improve. The Patriots have made a franchise out of people who are willing to play to win.
Like Tom Brady.
Like Tom Brady, like Gerard Mayo, and unlike some people that leave for money, cough, cough, Darrelle Revis, these people want to win. These people want their team to improve, and I just think it is extremely admirable for a player of his stature to take a pay cut.
I don't think you should overlook the Tom Brady thing. Honestly, I think that is kind of a big deal. I mean, Tom Brady is the golden boy. He is the face of this franchise. He is almost the face of New England at this point. He's pretty much considered a god or godlike among 90% of New England residents. So the fact is he represents so much more than just himself. And I feel like he's sending a bad message by not going to the White House. Obviously, like you said, he's gone 3 times before, sure, but the rest of his team is there. And I think that even from a team leader standpoint, not even just on a bigger scale, let's take it on a smaller scale, talk about the team. I think it shows a lack of, almost like a lack of leadership by not being there for your teammates' first experiences with that. I think that it would have been interesting. And plus, it's a new president, as you said. I mean, actually, yeah, it's a new president. We've got to go way back to the last time that they won a Super Bowl before this. So it would have been interesting to see him meet President Obama, see what he would have had to say. But
well, unfortunately, that is all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining us, and be sure to check in next week for a Sports Blast update, and stay tuned for next Friday with another episode of Sports from A to B. I'm Tyler Trudeau.
Yeah, well, breaking news, Tyler, we actually don't have a show next Friday, but maybe we'll be back the Friday after that. But be sure to follow us on Twitter at SportsA2B so you can stay updated on all things Arlington and Boston sports. I'm Damon Turbey. He's Tyler Trudeau. Thank you for watching Sports from A to B.